Tonight, fire everywhere.
The smoke coming from this 175,000-acre fire is almost overwhelming.
Firefighters combating the blaze across an apocalyptic landscape on the West Coast. And incoming.
We have really good reason to be very concerned about this storm.
The storm surge from Sally could turn into a hurricane, set to make landfall tomorrow. Plus, manhunt.
The suspect then fled on foot.
A $100,000 reward for the shooter who ambushed 2 LA sheriff's deputies. And
nothing was off limits, nothing was out of bounds.
Months after leaving the White House, our interview with Sarah Sanders. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation.
The wildfires out west heating up the rhetoric in the 2020 campaign. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm John Jessup.
And I'm Jenna Browder. Thanks for joining us. Well, tonight, President Trump is in California for a briefing on the wildfires raging on the West Coast.
His White House rival went after the president over the horrific environmental carnage, arguing that if he's reelected, wildfires and other natural disasters will be more common, more devastating, and even deadlier. CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy is here now with more. Ben, sharp criticism there.
Yeah, John, Jenny, you're right. Today, Biden called Trump a climate denier. President Trump said that is just, quite frankly, not true. And he blames bad forest management for the fires out west.
Forest management in California is very important. And now it extends to Washington and extends also to Oregon. There has to be good, strong forest management, which I've been talking about for 3 years.
Now, Biden pushed back on President Trump, saying he is not listening to experts or to scientists. And he said that climate change is playing a major factor in these natural disasters.
The impacts of climate change don't pick and choose. That's because it's not a partisan phenomenon. It's science. And our response should be the same, grounded in science, acting together, all of us. But like with our federal response to COVID-19, the lack of a national strategy on climate change overall leaves us with a patchwork of solutions. As a matter of fact, it's been made worse by the changes this administration has made.
Now, Biden said that today from Delaware as President Trump touched down in Sacramento for a briefing with firefighters and local leaders. Trump approved emergency declaration in California after 29 major fires continue to spread. A record 3.3 million acres have been burning this year alone. The election is now 49 days away. Biden will be in Florida tomorrow for a bit of an elections campaign stop. And as for President Trump, he will be back at the White House for a historic peace deal signing between Israel and the United Arab Emirates. John, Jenna?
All right, CBN White House correspondent Ben Kennedy. Thanks, Ben. Well, tonight, evacuation orders already declared in New Orleans, now in the path of what's been officially declared another hurricane. Sally is forecast to hit the city early Tuesday. Millions along the Gulf Coast bracing for high winds and heavy rain. The storm dumped nearly a foot of rain on the Florida Keys over the weekend. The potential for severe weather stretches from the western Florida panhandle to southeast Louisiana. Mandatory evacuations have also been ordered in Mississippi and Louisiana.
We have really good reason to be very concerned about this storm, particularly because it is going to be a very slow-moving storm.
I mean, after Katrina, anything around here and anything on the water, you're going to take serious. You know, you can't take anything lightly.
And in California, firefighters are stretched to the limit, and we're seeing neighbors stepping up to help each other out. CBN contributor Chuck Holden is in Sugar Pine near Yosemite National Forest.
The landscape is truly apocalyptic. Millions of acres of forest are burning along the West Coast, the smoke blotting out the sun. Dozens have died, and officials fear that number could go much higher. Here in Yosemite National Park, the normally breathtaking scenery is hidden by a choking layer of smoke and falling ash, and the fire season is only getting started. The Creek Fire in the Sierra National Forest is keeping 1,600 firefighters busy day and night, but considering its size, locals say that's not nearly enough.
The whole area for miles around burned, and it burned Monday, I believe. So I'm worried about my stock. Hasn't got anything to eat for 4 or 5 days. I'm hoping to get back as soon as the officers and officials will let me in.
The smoke coming from this 175,000 acre fire is almost overwhelming up here, just about an hour to the east of Fresno, California. And it's blanketing all of Southern California, all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, according to some of the officials who say that this blanket of smoke is part of what is helping to contain this fire.
The one thing that we're trying to share with folks is that while this smoke is a real burden and it's not any fun to have your community socked in smoke and be breathing this, it's actually doing a lot of good because it's moderating fire behavior substantially. And that's giving us a chance to try to get out in front of this thing.
The Trump administration has dedicated more than 26,000 personnel to assist, dozens of grants paying for fire suppression and to help rebuild.
My administration is closely coordinating with state and local leaders, and we want to thank the more than 200,000 people that are working on it and 28,000 firefighters and first responders who courageously and bravely are fighting out there.
But in many places, residents aren't waiting for government help. They're helping each other to try and save their communities.
So the other day I put out a call and to have some friends come help me on our property, brush in case this fire, the creek fire comes this way because the fire departments are short. And man, I have 12 guys showed up and 4 other guys on the other side cutting line, and it's just amazing. These guys are making the road wider and just making it so the fire department comes in, they have an easier time to try to stop the fire coming down.
Despite the massive response from state and federal governments, the fires continue to rage out of control, and residents here are continuing to pray for the best and prepare for the worst.
I've been a firefighter for about 34 years now, wildland mostly, and I've seen a lot of wildfires, but I haven't seen any fires like this that have been so widespread up and down throughout the state. We are getting ready in advance of the fire that may or may not come this way, but we're doing the hazard reduction that we need to do to fortify the community here and make it safe. And they're doing a good job of it so far. We're well organized, but like I said, I haven't seen any fires like this in a long time.
Chuck Holton, CBN News, Sugar Pine, California.
Thank you, Chuck. Well, here now is Stacy Lamb. He is the Senior Director of Disaster Relief for Convoy of Hope. Stacy, thank you so much for being with us. We know Convoy of Hope is loaded up and ready to go to help people suffering from the fallout from fires in the western states, from California to Oregon. Can you tell us more about the help you're preparing to offer people?
Yes, and thank you for having me on. Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, we already have truckloads of relief headed that way in the form of bottled water and food and other relief supplies.
Devastation there. Have we ever seen anything quite like this, these fires that are just burning up and down the West Coast?
Well, this year seems to be the year for all things out of the norm, and of course the fires just burning all through all of those states seems to be just more than we normally see in a fire year. All those fires are always devastating, but it's just the pictures that are coming out of there. I saw some from San Francisco and some from some other areas yesterday, and they're just almost apocalyptic in nature.
Mm-hmm. How does it compare to other disasters that you've been in, that you've helped out in?
You know, everyone is a little bit different. I'm sitting in our mobile operations center right now in Lake Charles, Louisiana, as we're responding to Hurricane Laura. So everything's a little bit different in terms of what the needs are locally. But Convoy of Hope is always ready and prepared to respond in whatever way we can.
Speaking of Hurricane Laura, we just learned today that the 20th named storm of the season is out in the Atlantic. There's another one now heading towards New Orleans. How is Convoy of Hope preparing to help there?
Yeah, so we're in close enough proximity to where Hurricane Sally is predicted to hit that we are actually staged as we're continuing our operations here in Lake Charles in response to Hurricane Laura. we're also pre-staging right here in this same location to respond to Hurricane Sally in whatever way is necessary, whether it be food and water or whether it be cleanup supplies. You know, this one looks to be a little bit different than Laura. Laura came in with some very strong winds, did a lot of damage in terms of infrastructure and power. This one could be more of a flooding event, which means the supplies that are needed and the aftermath may be a little bit different. But either way, we are staged and ready to respond as needed.
And what are you most worried about for people in the path of this particular storm, Stacy?
Well, the storm surge, as we're hearing, could be, they're calling it potentially deadly storm surge. And that's always a fear. Really, just we want people to heed the warnings from local officials, emergency management officials, take those precautions, take those warnings seriously, and evacuate if you're in those flood-prone areas or in those hurricane-worn areas, and just stay safe.
Yeah. And finally, Stacy, if people at home want to help, what can they do to help Convoy of Hope?
Well, you can go to convoyofhope.org. You can follow along with all of the different responses that we have going around the nation, around the world, and there'll be links right there that you can donate to Convoy and help us respond to disasters all over the world.
Yeah, there are a lot of them right now. All right, Stacy Lamb, Senior Director of Disaster Relief for Convoy of Hope. It is good to see you. Stay safe. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Coming up, the latest on that deadly police ambush in California, where even the White House hopefuls are weighing in. Next.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep as the world watches from the outside.
It's a big diplomatic tug of war here in the Middle East.
Go inside the story with Jerusalem Dateline.
Israeli archaeologists are talking about a discovery that could change the thinking about the Temple Mount.
Join CBN Jerusalem Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell and get the biblical perspective on the events shaping the world.
What starts in Israel then ends up going to other places.
Watch Jerusalem Dateline Friday night at 9:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Tonight, the manhunt continues for the gunman who shot 2 LA sheriff's deputies in what was an ambush-style attack over the weekend.
Surveillance video captured the whole thing, and now authorities are offering a $100,000 reward. CBN News national security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us now. Eric, the attack sending reverberations beyond what happened in California.
That's right, and it's prompting a swift response from both men running for president of the United States. This as tensions on the street appear to be mounting. This chilling surveillance video shows the boldness of the attacker, walking right up to the police cruiser Saturday evening and squeezing off several rounds. One of the deputies trying to radio for help, barely able to talk after being shot in the jaw.
One deputy was hit 4 or 5 times. The other one was hit at least 3 times.
So it was quite a few rounds.
The two deputies, both on the force for just 14 months. One, a 31-year-old mother of a 6-year-old, the other just 24 years old.
Your patient was transported by sheriffs en route to local trauma center.
And upon their arrival, insult to injury as protesters attempted to block the hospital entrance, heckling the officers.
I hope they
It pisses me off. It dismays me at the same time.
The president offering this strong rebuke.
Tonight our thoughts are with the two sheriff's deputies in Los Angeles who were fighting for their lives when a vicious criminal walked up to their vehicle and shot them at point-blank range.
Presidential hopeful Joe Biden tweeted, "This cold-blooded shooting is unconscionable, and the perpetrator must be brought to justice. Violence of any kind is wrong. Those who commit it should be caught and punished." He added in another tweet, "Weapons of war have no place in our communities. We need to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines." The attack on the deputies may have been in response to the death of this man, Dijon Kizee. Sheriff's deputies fired 15 shots, killing Kizee on August 31st, stating they thought he was reaching for a gun. The LA County Sheriff says what's perhaps most disturbing is that these two deputies were not doing anything wrong. They were minding their own business, really just on duty, doing what they were supposed to be doing, which is protecting people in and around that particular transit stop where they were working. He fears that other deputies might be in danger, and therefore at this point he's making sure that all of his deputies are paired two to a car, and he's reinforcing the fact that they need to be vigilant when it comes to watching out for each other's back. John and Jenna.
All right, thank you, Eric. Up next, months after leaving the White House, former press secretary Sarah Sanders tells all. Our exclusive interview right after this.
On October 1st, 1961, history was made when a tiny station began transmitting the first signals of the Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN, the Christian Broadcasting Network.
And now, a new era has begun with the all-new CBN News Channel.
Just moments ago, the Iron Dome intercepted an incoming rocket right on the Gaza border.
And ministering in this area, spiritual warfare is definitely involved.
A 24/7 news network, bringing you the news you want from a source you can trust.
In Kenya, 40% of the medical services are actually provided by these Christian hospitals.
Let's talk about the economy.
Believers here are joining together to win people to Jesus Christ.
All your favorite shows now in one place. Go to cbnnewschannel.com to find out how to get the CBN News Channel on your TV all day, every day. CBN News. Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Life. It's meant to be lived fully. Jesus said it. I came to give you life. Life to the fullest. Life in your family. Life in your finances. Life in your body, mind, and spirit. Life in your everyday. At CBN.com, we're taking what Jesus said seriously. We're here to help you discover life. Life. Live it fully. CBN.com.
Welcome back. Few people in the Trump administration had as much access to the president than former White House press secretary Sarah Sanders.
And now, months after leaving the White House, she is opening up about her experience. Here she is with CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody.
Here's how I see it, Sarah. Let me know. Everybody says, what's the state of the race? And I've coined a new phrase. I call it, how is Joe doing on the basement index, the BBI, the Biden basement index? if he's in the basement a lot, then they're feeling pretty secure. If he's out campaigning, then he's 10 on the BBI scale.
They hid him away and tucked him into that basement for the last several months. And as the polls started to tighten, as things start to get more serious, you're seeing him, like you said, do more campaign events. I think that is unquestionably because they know that the president is moving in and doing very well and growing in support. It's also such a huge contrast to look at the excitement and the enthusiasm for President Trump versus the lack of for Vice President Biden. I mean, there is just nothing that seems to be motivating or rallying or in the Biden camp in the way that it is on the Trump campaign. I've grown up in politics. I have spent my entire adult life working in politics, and I have never seen the level of commitment and enthusiasm as there is that exists for President Trump for any other candidate.
I love how he always talks about the evangelicals with the preposition the. The evangelicals, they love me. Well, can you talk to me about, there's been a lot written on the other side of this, the liberals who say, oh, he's just using evangelicals as a prop.
Look at what he's done. He has governed more conservatively than any president in history. He's done more for the pro-life community. He's done more for religious freedom. He has empowered evangelicals and people of faith in a way that no president before him has. And I, for one, am very thankful that he has been willing to do that. And in so many cases, do that in the face of so much negativity, so many people attacking him. And I think that his record alone stands for where his heart lands and where it is. He's not perfect. Neither am I, neither are you. And that's the whole idea of Christianity, is that none of us are perfect. But thankfully, because we have a Savior, he wipes all that away.
There are quite a few touching moments in the book. One of them, to me, was that time when you walk in and you have this conversation with the president saying you're leaving the White House.
Here I was pouring my heart out. From the second I walked in, I think he knew. And I looked at him and I just started crying. And I not just like tearing up, like actual crying. Yeah. And so here I am sitting there crying my eyes out to the President of the United States. And he gets up and walks out of the room. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like I'm literally bawling and you leave. But he rushes out of the room, comes right back and hands me a Kleenex and says, don't worry, Sarah, it's going to be okay. And it was just a really, I think, special moment, at least for me, and meant a lot that, you know, he showed kind of that caring side of him that you don't always get to see, and certainly will never hear about in most of the mainstream media.
You know, you face so much criticism from the media, from your liberal critics, and you detail a lot of it. For example, you talked about someone, you know, spitting at you and just all the derogatory stuff.
I think the biggest thing is that it was so surprising that nothing was off limits, nothing was out of bounds for the people who didn't like the president. And, you know, their whole mantra is all about tolerance as long as you agree with them. And because I didn't agree with them on policy, and I was a supporter and a very vocal supporter of the president, I was fair game, and everything about me was fair game. Everything from my appearance, my weight, my makeup, my fitness to be a parent. To attack me so personally was certainly challenging. And one of the reasons I'm so thankful that I have such a deep faith, because if I didn't, I don't know that I would have been able to do that for as long as I was. I wasn't looking for anybody else to define me. I knew who I was. I knew that God had created me for a purpose, and that gave me the confidence I needed to go in and face every day.
The Jesus Calling devotional, how important was that as you maneuvered? You referenced the Jesus Calling devotional quite a bit, actually.
You know, it's interesting. It's still something I read every day, in part, particularly that very first briefing where I just couldn't seem to quite settle my nerves. I knew that there was a lot on the line for this briefing, and I really felt I needed to deliver in this moment, but there was just so much coming at me, and I just needed to settle my mind And I said, you know what, I'm just going to take a second. Somebody had left a leather-bound copy of it in the office. I grabbed it. I went into the other room and I read it. And immediately I just was kind of like, I'm at peace. This is I'm either going to be great or I'm going to be terrible, but I'm as ready as I'm going to be. And I felt calm and just ready to go in. And so from that day forward, it became the very last thing I did before I went in to the briefing. And even now I have it on my phone. And if I'm getting ready to give a speech or an interview, I'll look down and do a last little read through before some of those big moments, just to kind of center myself and remind me what's important and why I'm there.
All right. Thank you, David. Coming up, the MLB and the NFL not letting the pandemic put a damper on their performances. A recap of an exciting weekend in sports up next.
Life is better with a good night's sleep. Get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Watch Studio 5 Wednesday night at 9:30.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Well, finally tonight, even without fans filling the stands, that hasn't stopped players from bringing their A game and, in some cases, scoring career highs.
That's right. The Chicago Cubs' Alex Mills threw the franchise's second no-hitter of the season in a 12-0 blowout against the Milwaukee Brewers.
And a strike. Up the middle. Baez has it. It's a no-hitter.
There you go. And Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson also threw an impressive 4 touchdown passes, the most by a Seahawk in season opener history. All of these highlights, John, hopefully a good omen for what's coming in the season ahead.
Absolutely. Fun weekend for sure.
Do it for Faith Nation tonight.
Hope to see you again tomorrow.